Olive. Alechem gomo shehu mechamesh min adagim uvochem lefonav hamotzie u'achar birchas hamazon. He says over here the word alechem gomo. What does mean lechem gomo? Lechem is lechem. The truth is no, lechem is not lechem. You can make different kind of breads from chameshes aminim, and they wouldn't be on moitzi. Like it depends if it's blila raka or blila ova, if it's a hard dough or if it's a liquid dough, if it's baked, so. But lechem gama over here, he means that, first it means bread that's made from flour and water. Yesh li zohar shaloga hafsik v'netilas yadayim l'motzi. That right after netilas yadayim, you should make a motzi, not wait. Avu mutar l'ganas amen al ezer bracha sheshemeya. If Marshall, you heard someone making a bracha, you washed your hands and you made on netilas yadayim, but before you got a chance to open your bread, so someone made a bracha, so that you gotta do. Ushehiyah, shia means waiting. In other words, when you go on a taxi, so a taxi has a meter. The meter charges two things: moving and waiting. So now he's talking about shehiyah, about waiting. He says, "Ushehiyah kedei hilach esrim shtayim amos," and waiting an amount that it takes to walk 22 amos. 22 amos would mean something like about 30 something feet. It's not much. On mi bias or bias, I feel a hilach ma'at, or going like if you wash in one room, and then you're going to the meal in another room. So over there is even less than that. I feel a hilach ma'at. V'chein im diber ma she'ein el tzorach asura. If he said something, like if he says that Moshe bring salt or bring a knife, that's the tzorach asura. But if something got at the conversation, not the tzorach asura, mikra hefsek is called a hefsek. Ubediavad im hefsek les lombo. So bediavad, it's not gefelach. Ubevad shrei osa eza ma'aser b'intayim or shehiflik b'dvarim. In other words, if you get into the whole conversation about current events or what the politics or something, the Oz have you hesach adas, the tzorach l'tilu shenis, and you'd have to wash another time. There's always a shaila when they used to make a chasana. Today a lot of people come to chasana and they don't wash. Sometimes when it comes to the end of chasana, you have to really look if there's a minyan for Sheva brachas, because nobody washed. So it's a whole shaila. It's not so poshut. Sometimes, you need a minyan. Okay, I'll go wash. The question is, if the Rai finished the Suda,
he's eating by himself,
and you're going now to wash, if you're Kavi Mishtatif, that's a different shot. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to cause any hard feeling by simplest. But by the chasnas, they do serve some breads or type of rolls or what. And usually, by many chasnas, there's a place outside where you can wash their hands. That becomes really a shaila, because going from the outside into the inside, it could be a question of going mecheda l'cheda, and it could be a question of going more than chabez amma. So what they do is they leave little pieces of bread over there. But some don't like that idea because Reish is called, really when you wash, you're supposed to eat a kazayis b'tei achilas pras. Like you can't just wash and take a little bite and not eat anymore. Abidin, you have to eat a kazayis b'tei achilas pras. B'tei achilas pras, let's say, okay, we'll be makeless 8 minutes. But there's people that they just wash and they eat that little piece over there and nothing more. That's another problem. And then there's people that don't like that because it's a prusa. It's a little piece. It's not a shreima. You should make a bracha on a shreima. So all these things are included like in the sif that we learn now that you have to pay attention to.
Don't they?
It's a higher you to make a sink in the hole.
He's giving me a job. He said I should go put the sink in the hole.
Oh, so the truth is, his vice says that some caterers it was brought already to their attention, and what they do is they set up a table in the hall, and there's a big bowl there and some glasses, and you could take water and wash right over there. Remember, so that takes away the problem of going mecheder l'cheder. It takes away the problem sometime the hiluch chopbeis amma. Now he says, Betzeya hapas b'makom hamufka shabayit. The question is, when you start the bread, so usually you cut the bread and you break off a piece. And the piece you break off, you dip into the salt. The question is, what part of the bread should you bake? We'll still see over here that there's different opinions about it. Because in a bread, there's the top crust is well baked, and the bottom is even better baked. So that shayla what to take. So let's see over here. So he says, "Betzeya hapas b'makom hamufka shabayit," by the best part of it. Mipnei covered the bracha. When you're making a bracha, so you have to make the bracha. If you have better and poorer, you have to make the bracha on the best. V'hamufcha, what is considered the best by a bread? Hu mokim hakosher shesham nefra hater. It's a lot of people when they eat bread, they like the soft part. Like people like to pull out the soft part and eat it. You know, that's the tasty part. He said that's not considered the tasty part. It may be considered the tastiest part, but the best part that's best baked is
crust.
It's good. You know, they tell a story that there was once a person that Morgen Friday night in the shul, they would announce whoever needs a place for Shabbos, you know, so the guests or the aniyim, they would line up and people would take the guests to their house for Shabbos. So there was this guest, never a poor man, that a whole week he skimped on what he ate. So came Friday night, he's invited, and there was a big challah on the table. So he sits by a table and he's ripping out the inside of the challah and dipping it into the soup. And you know, that's very geschmack. You take a challah, especially, there's two kinds of challahs. There's an egg challah and a water challah. An egg challah means that they make with dough and water and eggs also. And then there's a water challah that doesn't have any eggs in it at all. Just maybe they smear, the top maybe they smear, but other than that, there's no. So if you take a challah that's made with eggs and water and you dip it into the soup, it's very geschmack. And this other man is sitting over there and keeps ripping out pieces, and he's having a good time. So the Balbaz sees what he's doing. So the Balbaz says to him, you know, I always had a question. He said, yeah, what's your question? He says, I never understood, why did the Eibush have to split the yam? He could have given each Eid a challah, and they'll rip out the middle, and they'll dip it in, and they'll eat it up, and it's in the yam. So he says, ich verstehe nicht deine Frage. Ich vergessen, als ich gewinnt Pesach, und ich kenne das nicht gekommen. So he's saying now that the mufcha, that the best part of it is mokum hakosher, the hard part, shesham nefer heitem. And what is that? V'hu hamokum shekeneged hamizbakeya. Ki b'mokum shemaschu lefes nitchefes ha'osa ad shemizbakeya hatzad shekeneged. Now, what I understand that this means is, if you take a loaf of bread, so the top bakes nicely, and the bottom, many times it looks like it's cracked, because from that bottom cracks up, and I think that's what it means over here, from what I remember, that this is amokum shekeneged hamizbakeya. That's opposite. In other, if this is the mokum hamizbakeya, so this is opposite the mokum hamizbakeya. That's what it means. But an old man that has problems with his teeth and everything to eat a hard piece of bread, is yifsa b'makom harach. So by him, where the bread is soft, he should do that. And being ki ein gehafsek b'shiyas achitoch bein birchas hamotzi l'achila, being that you should right away, as soon as you make the bracha, you should right away eat it. So now the question is, you can't eat it right away because it takes time to cut the hard challah. Not everyone has a sharp knife that you give one cut and it goes. So he says, and being ki ein gehafsek b'shiyas achitoch, you shouldn't wait with the cutting, with the time that it takes to cut. Therefore, so first you take the knife and make a cut in it, like around it, like a ring. Now, the question is, if you're going to do that, it's a shlema. So he says, "Be'inyan she'im yechaz v'prusa tale kol hakika ima." That means that this. The marshal, when I pick up this bread, so I pick up here, so it'll break, but sometimes the whole thing will come along with it if it's not cut in deep. So when you begin to pick it up, the whole thing will come up. So that's how you decide, is the pas still a shleima or not. So he says, "Be'inyan she'im yachas b'prusa," if you hold the cut piece or the cut part of it, tala kol hakika imay, it'll bring up the whole bread. She'im loikein, so that's considered a shleima. And she'im loikein, if it will not bring up the whole, it'll crack, it'll break up into two. It almost says chashik prusa, so it's considered prusa. Vanamba inan, and we need she'ivorech birchas hamotzi b'oitcha pashleimo. So therefore, you should make a cut in it, v'yanechena mechuberes lepas, and read the rest of the bread together as one. V'yivorech birchas hamotzi v'acha shasiyim habracha. After they finish the bracha, then yafrideno kidei sheticha habracha ba'oitcha pashleima. This way, when the bracha finishes, the pas is still complete. V'chein kishabetzeya mikika she'ein shleima. Let's say people buy sliced bread. So what do you do over there? V'yachtach l'gamri kaidem habracha. כדי שתהי בש"ס הברכה יסי גדולה. It should be a larger piece because it's more choshever to make a bracha on a larger piece. ויחתך לגמרי ובשבס ויחתך כלל בכיכר עד אחר הברכה כדי שיהיה הכיכר שלמס ממש. That's our minute. Others, they make like a mark with the bread. But we don't make a mark, we just put the knife, we go over the bread with the lever. We don't cut into any part of it in order that it should be entirely shlema.
Why do we do with the knife?
Huh?
Show which one we're going to eat?
What?
Why do we do with the knife in Shabbos?
I think it's in order to decide where you're going to cut it. That you shouldn't later think.
Take and start figuring out where to cut it if you made the bracha.
Where to cut it.
He said Shabbos.
V'gam b'chol, also in the weekdays, im hi ugadaka, if it's a thin roll like, is yivarech kaidem ha-b'tziyah, you should make a bracha before breaking it. Over here, you don't really need a knife. It's a thin one, so you break off a piece from it, you make a bracha. So yivarech kaidem ha-b'tziyah, kivan she'ein shia b'shvira. You know, it doesn't take any time to break it. So over there you have to cut. You have to cut in, you know, if it's thick but if it's a thin, you just break it. So you should wait for him with the to make the bracha when it's a shema. There's a story that everyone told the story with the Tzedek. I think I told the story already, but I repeat it, about a bracha on a shema and a prusa. There's in a Morgenzeiten, if you wanted to, came a Rav, an Eirach, and a way to test the Rav, if he knows his stuff, was to test him with brachas. But it wasn't nice to start asking him, like, verhedding him about different brachas. So they would, like, sort of trick the Rav and see how he's going to conduct himself. So the Tzemach Tzedek once came to a place and they put down a platter of fruit. Put down a platter of fruit. There was grapes and cherries and cut slices of orange and slices of watermelon and slices of other fruits, all mixed together. And Tzemach Tzedek took a piece of, let's say, cut melon, let's say, and he made a bracha, then he ate it. So right away the people jumped up, you know, Rebbe, if you have a prusa and a shlema, you're supposed to make the bracha on the prusa. There was grapes, there was cherries. Okay, grapes becomes a question of shivas aminim. That's a different shayla of what's kaidem. But the Moshe, there was apples, so you could have taken an apple. Why'd you take the slice of melon? They caught the Tzemach Tzedek. They thought they caught him. So he said that the reason I did it was because you have to, when you come as an Eidach, you have to think, what does the guest want me to eat? What does the guest want?
What does the balabas want the guest to eat?
What does the balabas want the guest really to eat? He says, and I noticed that he gave a whole platter with all different kinds, with shleimus and prusas, sliced thing, and there was no knife over there. There's a simon that he didn't want me to open cut the ganze. So that's why I took the prusa to make a bracha on it.
There was also that shot with the bread when they gave him the whole bread.
Yeah.
And he said the only reason why you put it was because it wasn't because you wanted me to eat the whole one, but you only did to be able to test me, and therefore he tried to.
Could be. I don't know that story.
Fruit, he didn't put a knife in.
This I heard that Abba once told. Okay, let's start the next one. I don't know if we'll finish it then. Le'yivtza prusa ketana. You shouldn't cut a very small piece. It looks like you're stingy. And not a piece that's a large piece. It looks like a gluten, like what you're saying, a fresa. וצורך ליטה מן הפרוסה לכל אחד כזייס, is דמוס, is מותר לבצע כפי מה שצורך רואי, and you'll have what you'll need to pass around. ובשבס, אם אוכל לבדוי, מותר לבצע כפי מה שצורך לכל הסעודה. Nay, covered the Shabbos. V'harais chavivas suda Shabbos. Shechofetz lechol bohava. Shabbos is an inyan to eat, and so there's a Gemara in Masechta Beisa that the Gemara said that the inyan of a neshama yeseda is in order to be able to eat more. That's the inyan. יש לך אז הפרוצה שבוצה לה קודם שיהיה פס אחרת. They said, eat first this piece that you broke off. והוא משום חיבוב mitzvah. That shows that a love for the mitzvah. כיוון שבטח עולה, on that you made the bracha.
Which mitzvah, the mitzvah making a bracha?
Huh?
The chibuv of which mitzvah? Making a bracha?
Yeah, the
Yeah, you made the bracha on it, yeah. ותיבו יזור שלא ייתם ממנו לנוחי that from the bracha that you made the pas that you made a bracha on, you shouldn't give to a guy or to an animal. Okay.